The moment he stopped reacting, everything changed. And nobody noticed at first, because power doesn't always make noise. For most of his life, he was easy to read. Too easy. If you wanted to hurt him, you knew exactly where to press. A comment, a look, silence at the wrong time. He would tense up, his chest would tighten, his mind would race. He carried storms inside him, and the world kept learning how to trigger the thunder. People mistook his emotions for weakness. They thought because he felt deeply, he could be controlled. And for a long time, they were right. He grew up in chaos that never announced itself loudly, but it was always there. Arguments that started small and ended with doors shaking. Expectations that were never spoken, but always demanded. Love that came with conditions. He learned early that peace was temporary and tension was normal. So he lived on edge, always ready to defend himself, always preparing for the next hit, emotional or otherwise. At school, he tried to fit in. He laughed when others laughed, even when the joke cut him. He stayed quiet when something felt wrong, then replayed the moment 100 times at night, imagining what he should have said. At work, later in life, he worked harder than most, hoping effort would protect him. It didn't. His boss spoke over him. His ideas were taken, reshaped, and credited to someone else. When he tried to speak up, his voice shook, not because he lacked intelligence, but because anger was louder than clarity. Everywhere he went, it felt like people were pressing buttons they didn't even know existed, and every reaction cost him something: respect, opportunities, sleep, self-worth. He thought strength meant pushing back harder, raising his voice, proving his point, winning arguments. But every time he reacted, he felt smaller afterward, like he had given away a piece of himself for free. The breaking point didn't come with a scream. It came with silence. One evening, after a day that felt heavier than usual, he sat alone in a dim room. No music, no phone, just the low hum of the world outside. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from exhaustion. He was tired of being pulled into battles he never chose, tired of explaining himself to people who were committed to misunderstanding him, tired of waking up angry before anything even happened. And for the first time, a dangerous thought crossed his mind. What if the problem isn't them? Not in a blaming way, not in a self-hating way, but in an honest way. What if every time I react, I give them control? That thought didn't bring comfort, it brought fear. Because if it was true, it meant the power he kept chasing outside had always been inside his reactions. The next few weeks were uncomfortable, painfully so. He started noticing his impulses, the urge to reply immediately, the need to correct, to defend, to explain. He noticed how his heart would speed up before his mouth opened, how his body reacted before his mind caught up. So, he tried something new. He paused. At first, it felt like losing. Someone would provoke him, and he wouldn't respond the way he used to. He would breathe, count, let the moment pass. And inside, everything screamed, "Say something! Don't let them win!" But he stayed quiet. People noticed. Some pushed harder. When he didn't react, they increased the pressure, sharper words, subtle insults, testing to see if the old version would come back. And sometimes he almost did. Sometimes he failed. But something strange started happening. The less he reacted, the more he could see. He began to notice patterns, how certain people thrived on his emotional responses, how many conflicts existed only because he participated, how many battles were traps disguised as conversations. And with clarity came a quiet strength he had never felt before. He realized emotional control wasn't about being cold. It wasn't about pretending not to care. It was about choosing where his energy went, about refusing to let others decide his inner weather. At work, when his boss dismissed his idea, he didn't argue. He listened, took notes, and later, when the time was right, he presented his thoughts calmly, backed by results. No emotion, just truth. The room shifted. People leaned in. His words carried weight, not because they were louder, because they were steady. In relationships, he stopped explaining himself to people who only listened to respond. He stopped chasing validation. If someone misunderstood him on purpose, he let them. And something unexpected happened. Some people drifted away, and it hurt, but others started respecting him more. Not everyone will stay when you stop being predictable. There were nights he questioned himself, nights when silence felt like swallowing fire, when peace felt lonely, when he wondered if he was becoming invisible. But slowly, he understood something crucial. Peace is not passive. Peace is disciplined. It's restraint in a world addicted to reaction. It's mastering the space between stimulus and response. And that mastery began to change everything. His posture changed. He walked slower, listened more, spoke less. But when he did, people paid attention. His eyes no longer searched the room for approval. They were grounded, present. The same people who once tried to provoke him now hesitated, not because he threatened them, but because they couldn't read him anymore. Their tactics stopped working, and when manipulation fails, it exposes itself. He became dangerous in the quietest way. There was one moment that sealed it: a public confrontation. Someone tried to embarrass him using his past, his mistakes, his old reactions. The room went still. Everyone waited for the explosion they expected. He felt it, the heat, the rush, the old reflex begging to come alive. And then, nothing. He smiled, softly, looked the person in the eyes, and said calmly, "If that's what you need to feel strong, I hope it helps." No defense, no counterattack, no explanation. The power left the room. Later, someone asked him how he stayed so calm, how he didn't lose control. He thought about it, about the years of chaos, the sleepless nights, the moments he gave away pieces of himself. And he answered with the truth. "I learned that my peace is worth more than being right."